Ronald, a very good morning to you. Yeah, tell us more about the latest development here, and that is of an arrest.
Yes, indeed, Juveka, we can confirm this hour that an arrest has been made in connection with the Cape Town fire. But for more details, I am joined by Safety and Security Maker member J.P. Smith. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for your time. Can you confirm some of the details regarding this arrest?
Indeed, last night we had, when the firefighters were busy trying to control that fire break between the Rhodes Memorial side and the developments on the edge of Devil's Peak, the High Cape and so forth, there were multiple residents who in quick succession contacted me in the emergency centres, the neighbourhood watches, to say that they were watching three men moving through the bush, starting new fires. And I mean, it was almost incredulous. My first thing was to ask residents, are you sure it's not just the fire spotting? They said, no, we're seeing men. So we got all of traffic law enforcement and Metro Police to go and see if they could find these individuals in the bush, and that is in fact then what happened. A resident from the area, Mr. Yazid Evans, then found one of these individuals, or a man standing right next to a fire. Law enforcement officer arrived on the scene, assisted in arresting that individual, and he is currently in custody with SAPS. A case has been opened of arson, and affidavits have been obtained from the residents and the officers.
Can you provide a bit more detail with regards to this individual? Has he offended previously?
It's not much is known about him at this stage. He's in his 30s, and when he was asked for an address, he indicated that he sleeps in the bush. And so it is possible that that was an accidental fire that he started for cooking purposes, but he was busy with a second smaller fire, and when asked about it, he admitted that he started the fire. He was asked about if he started the big fire or this one. It seemed to indicate that he took responsibility for the bigger fire. So it is hard to say what his state of mind is as well, and I think that will now be the subject of the criminal investigation. We are accustomed to seeing people in the bush being the cause of such fires. That has mostly been the case in the past. So the outcome is not surprising, but the fact that people were seen by residents moving between the bushes, apparently attempting to rekindle fires where the firemen had already been through, is very difficult to accept.
Certainly not the first fire on Table Mountain, and probably not the last. But then what can we learn? Could we see possibly more security measures, perhaps cameras dispatched on some of those areas on Table Mountain?
So yes, absolutely. I don't think that the problem here is early detection. The cameras may help for identifying individuals involved in this, in arson setting or malicious fire setting. But the fire department responded very quickly on to the first fire. The problem is the wind conditions. Even a small breeze here against the side of the mountain is a roar of wind because of the way in which the mountain compacts that wind. And then, of course, it provides a large thermal lift area where all of those hot embers then can rise and descend within reach of that area, which then caused that fire spotting from Leesbeek Parkway all the way to Plumstead, where some of the furthest ones were, and of course all over the campus, which then started those fires as the embers were able to cling to the ivy, ignite the ivy, which got to the roofs. And it was in fact only some of the fire preventative equipment that UCT had installed that prevented the fire at the library from being worse than it was. Tragic and horrific to think that the cause of all of that damage to those buildings, the science building and the library, and that invaluable, the artifacts that are lost there, and the Mosters Mill, and the injuries to fire staff might have been the cause of somebody's malicious behaviour. Very hard to accept that. And if that is the case, I seriously hope there's going to be massive consequences there.
I want to go to the massive consequences. Do we know when this individual will appear in court, and what could possibly be in terms of those massive consequences should he be found guilty?
Well, I think if you're dealing with a criminal matter now, there's been a formal criminal case opened, most likely a court appearance tomorrow or the day after. SAPS at the moment has this person in custody, and there is an investigating officer dealing with it. The city's investigations unit is also supporting, and I see now that Sandparks has also recruited a fire forensic investigator who's very experienced and accomplished, who knows his business, who is also going to be contributing. So evidence is going to be collected very rapidly. We'll have all the statements and the comments from the city councillor, Councillor Sumaya Talib, who made some of those calls last night when they saw the people. She lives adjacent to the area where the fires were being started. as well as several other residents. That collection of evidence hopefully will put us in a position to take further action. But unfortunately, not all three of those individuals were caught, and not clear if this man was starting a new fire for a different purpose or if he was responsible for the original. But if he was, I sincerely hope that the law is going to weigh heavily on him and that there will be prison time.
Alderman Smith, just lastly, just brief us on some of the rescue efforts that have taken place over the past 12 hours or so.
Okay. So as you can see, that's quite a busy site here, staff coming on duty now and all going up onto the mountain. The new shift, the other guys are exhausted. They've been here since yesterday. If you go into the incident command room, you'll see some very bleary-eyed people who were here from 9 o'clock yesterday morning. They're exhausted. There are a lot of donations coming in. Members of the public are amazing. There were even delivery services like Uber Eats who were delivering donations that people had made directly to the fire station. We have now called for food, and I've just received calls from NGOs, even from as far as Johannesburg, offering assistance with hot meals for the staff who are on the mountain. At this stage, about 250 firefighters on that mountain trying to contain it. The wind this morning, as kind as it was last night to let up, so fierce it has returned this morning. And is blowing insanely, fanning that fire very badly. You can see the amount of smoke, and it is heading past the back of the pepper pot towers and is now going to be heading into other areas where potentially it puts new areas at risk. So it's all about how this wind turns and fans these flames, and with very strong wind like this morning, the worst possible case scenario.
Very, very lastly, will we see choppers dispatched, given that there is a strong southeaster?
Unlikely that we're going to have choppers because of this wind strength. Not an ideal situation. But the evacuations currently are being done. There are precautionary evacuations of the streets immediately adjacent, Pepper Tree Street, and so adjacent to that fire area, that have been evacuated as a precaution. So we will have to see. So that's now them, some students yesterday on the campus, and certainly the mountain at this stage to be avoided by people for hiking or any other recreation purposes.
All right, JP Smith, thank you very much indeed for your time. There we have it, Uveka, an arrest has been made. The individual is currently in police custody. He is expected to appear in court soon. But what we do know is that quite a number of people also use Table Mountain to live in Table Mountain. We've heard of stories of Rastafarians also using Table Mountain to live there. Still unclear whether the arson attack was intentional or not, but we'll certainly try and get more details as the story unfolds.
All right, thanks, Ronald. From what we're hearing there from JP Smith, sounds like this was a homeless man, lit a fire, whether to keep warm or cook. But let's see what happens. Let investigations reveal exactly what the intention was.